I'd like to thank you for having us here today. It's an honor to talk to you. As was mentioned, the handouts just give you an overview of our FFA and the Ag program and the sheep project. So all this information is actually on those sheets. I teach 18 different Ag classes and they're semester-long classes. And this year I started teaching science also, so that's been a new challenge. When I first started teaching, the first 4 years that I started at Weston, I taught special education. So I've had various hats through the last few years. 6 of my courses are transcripted courses with Southwest Tech. So the animal science, plant science, soil science, and small gas engines. Oh, that's 4, I'm sorry. 6 of my courses are science equivalency courses. So kids can take those courses and get science credit for them for their third science. And then transcripted courses are, as I said, plus I also have an advanced standing one of agribusiness. So this year, I just put some statistics up there about our program. I had 35 of the 75 high schoolers taking A classes this year, and that's down a bit because I actually taught more science classes this year than A classes. And I had 21 of the 46 middle school students. And every student that takes an A class is a chapter member of our FFA. So we have 77 FFA members. So a little background in Ag education. When we are taught to be Ag teachers, we learn about the 3-circle model. So to have a good Ag education, the program should have in classroom instruction, FFA, and a supervised agricultural experience. So, of course, classroom instruction is what they learn in class, and FFA helps them to go out and use some of the skills that they've learned, like we take kids on judging contests, and I don't know if these girls have been on, we were going to go to the Dairy Expo for dairy judging one year, these 2 girls, and of course COVID came, so we weren't able to go. And but we have had that science teams and agronomy teams and dairy products teams all going to regional contests, and our kids compete, and wildlife teams also. So that is the FFA portion. Plus, they get to go to a lot of leadership activities. There's always for these girls who are actually going to be the FFA officers until July 1st, and then at that time, Lora becomes president, and Addie's still going to be an officer, but we're going to have our officer retreat, and then we're going to decide who's going to be which officers. But because they are officers, there's officer retreats, there are other leadership activities, and conferences locally, statewide. And we also belong to an Ag septenary society where we get together with Boston and Wisconsin Dells and New Lisbon and Hillsborough and Waniwak, and we practice for the contests, and we have just fun activities so the kids get to know each other. SAE, that stands for Supervised Agricultural Experience. So this is part of the reason that the Sheep Project came to be, because a lot of our kids, even though we're in a rural area, they are not able to have animals or do other things. Even though an SAE could be anything from having a lawn mowing business or working for a industry business or anything like that. So I kind of use the sheep project and our greenhouse that we have and our chicken project as in-school SAE, so the kids can have some hands-on experiences, and especially the ones that don't have room at their homes for any, animals or things like that. All right, so this project was actually back in 2012, 2013. I had an animal science class. And Lora's sister actually helped get this going. And on a whim, I brought in a Jersey calf, and they named him Scooter, and he lived in a calf hutch right behind the egg room. And the kids went out and they fed him milk replacer. And then when he got a little older, we had the veterinarian come and he dehorned and castrated the calf. And the kids were so excited about this that they thought, well, we should get more animals in school grounds so that other kids can take advantage of this. And so they were talking about dairy cattle or beef cattle or something big. Pigs, I said no to pigs because my husband worked at a pig farm, they don't smell very good. So at that time in the egg review, there was a article about milking sheep, and the milking sheep industry in Wisconsin is mostly in northern and northwestern Wisconsin, and over the border into Minnesota. And so we started thinking about that. But sheep are small. You might want to go to the next one. I'm not sure what, I can't remember what's on the next one. Yeah. Sheep are small, so the kids wanted the whole school to be able to interact with these animals on the school grounds. And we thought sheep would be, would be safer for the elementary students and for the high school kids working on it. And they aren't as expensive as buying cattle and feeding cattle and things like that. And we knew that Hard Alley Cheese Factory, which was right over the hill from us, actually made some award-winning sheep milk cheese. So we had talked about finding that spot in the egg industry, which would make us special. And then we started talking about the educational opportunities. And the kids came up with a list of like 20 or 30 things that kids from pre-K through 12 could learn from the sheep, using the sheep. So once we kind of talked about sheep, we decided to do some research, of course, and we found out that UW Spooner had a farm up there. Now it's closed, but a research farm up there, and it was focused around sheep. So we made arrangements to go up and tour that, and we got in contact with Larry from the Wisconsin Sheep Dairy Cooperative, and we also found out that in the same area was a mother and two daughters that had transformed their homestead into a CSA, and they had sheep, and they had dairy processing plant in their cafe. So we visited all those places, and I got ahead of myself. We went on a tour, which you'll see in the next slide. We also, that animal science class looked at housing requirements. There's actually a lot of information on the internet about all those types of things for sheep, even down to how to make a milking stand and mangers and bale feeders and things like that. But we have 60-some acres where Weston's situated, and below the school garden, there is some fields. So we thought, well, we could make that into hay fields. So the kids calculated how many bales we could make off this field and how many sheep we could support feeding them hay from this field. So they did some soil testing and stuff, and we found out that we had to have fertilizer and things like that. So they researched all that stuff, and then they came up with a plan, and then they, I think go to the next slide. We went on the tour, and these are the kids. Of course, they've all graduated now, and they're very successful adults, which I'm quite proud of. Lora's sister is the one in the middle, the girl in the middle. Her name's Heather. This is at UW Spooner in their milk house. So that was interesting. They milked while we were there, so we could, I don't know, sheep are only, I'm a cow person, so it was odd for me to see the milking sheep that have only 2 teats and cows have 4. So anyway, I've learned a lot about sheep, and I never dreamed I would like sheep because I am a cow person, not as bad as Addie is though. But they're actually quite personable. Okay, go to the next one, please. So our group set some goals. We decided we would build a 24 by 40 barn. And actually, Stacy, one of the girls that was on the slide there, she designed the barn. The assignment in the class was everybody design a sheep barn, and then we passed them around, and the kids all said, oh, we should do this, we should do that. And hers actually, with the additions that the other students made, her sheep barn was the one that was chosen. So our sheep barn right now is exactly what Stacy and the kids had designed. So in our barn, we have a milk house, a milking parlor, and at the time it was 2 pens and then a hay storage. We decided we could fence in some areas for grazing on those 62 acres. And we reestablished our other goal was to reestablish the hay field. And we said, okay, what are we going to do with this milk? Because we talked about making cheese at first, but then when we saw the gelato at that homestead, or those the dairy plant that those women have, they made gelato in their dairy plant. And we thought that was a lot easier than cheese, so we decided we'd do gelato. But before we got that set up, we're like, what are we gonna do with the milk? And the kids said, oh, let's make some soap. So we started making sheep milk soap. We've met all these goals now, and it's taken a while. It's been a long haul because the kids, I think, go to the next slide. The kids have done all the fundraising for this project. The school board at the time said, yeah, go ahead and do it, but we're not gonna put any money in it. And so the fundraising was done by the kids, and I've written some grants, and I had some help with other people writing grants. So we probably, I don't know, I'm not even sure, I was gonna add it up, but I'm sure we've got close to $40,000 that the kids have come up with for this project. So right now, even yet, now we're sustainable, so the money thing isn't so bad. But so the only thing the district pays for is the electricity for this sheep project. So this is our first group of kids and our first 2 sheep, Emily and Miss Ba. So Miss Ba is on the right, being held by Heather, Lora's sister, and Emily's on the left. And there's one kid that didn't really help this project, but he just wanted his picture taken in there. But it was exciting when we brought these 2 sheep home. The sheep were purchased, or one sheep was given to us by the Wisconsin Sheep Dairy Cooperative, and the other our FFA alumni bought. We had an FFA alumni at the time. So that was the start of our flock. And now Laura's going to tell you some of the things that happen out in the barn.
Okay, now I've been out of school for a few weeks now, so I'm not very good at studying right now. So I get the fancy piece of paper. So the barn that was built outside was designed by the founding group in 2014 and built by the students and volunteers, our very own Tim, Randy's husband, and Adam. We had several different ag classes that helped because our school was very excited for this. I remember my sister was super stoked. And so everyone kind of wanted to be a part of this little piece of history. At first, the sheep pastured around the greenhouse, and the first lamb was born in the chicken coop. It's got a little area closer to the barn while this was being built and making a better space. So this bottom left picture, you can see the sheep barn in the back, and that's over by the greenhouse. Classes that used the sheep for instruction were animal science, animal health, intro to ag science, companion animal vet tech, and dairy processing. Up in the top right is the summer school class, learning about different body parts. These sheep most of them are very calm, so they're really nice to work with kids. There's Randy babies them. And we do our own vaccines, and we trim our own hooves. One of our students are milking the sheep in the bottom right, in our amazing looking part of it. This makes it very accessible so the kids can stand behind. They don't have to worry about getting kicked or hit, other than watch your fingers. Out in the barn, we do physical exams, trimming hooves, administering vaccines and medications, shearing, lambing and lamb care, fecal flotation tests and treatments for worms, docking tails and castration, feeding and cleaning, putting up lambing pens and creep feeders, building and maintaining fences, making hay, and pregnancy checks for vet. Up in the top right, we have our famous Chase Connors, very nice boy. He graduated this year, and he's packing the wool into the bag for the shearer. We have Mr. Herbert shearing, does all our shearing for us, and works very well with the kids. And perfect. In the top left, we actually have our first set of quads. That was an interesting excitement, but I'm very happy that they all were doing all right. And we had the physical exams for the livestock health classes, so they kind of checked over everything, the eyes, the ears, and making sure that all the sheep are very healthy. And we have in the top right where our milkers this year. So Randy had her 8th grade class, I believe it was, help with all the milking and the chores, and it was a great experience because I've seen how the 8th graders are young kids, how they act interesting, but it was amazing to see how they just stood up and did the chores and they'd be done, did them right. So in the bottom right, it's a little hard to see, but actually the kids also helped put the milk stand together. It's a lot of metal, very heavy, but they were very happy to do it. And in the bottom middle, that's during the process of shearing. I remember I was in there for one of the shearings, and they made it very clear to the kids on what needed to be done and explaining how to do it, not just doing it instead. I know sometimes vets, all of a sudden they do the work, but our vets also work very nicely with the kids to show them and teach them, not just do it. Next, we have Addie DeMars with dairy processing.
Okay, I'm going to add something to Lora's too. Having the lambs born in the late winter, if the ewes don't want to take care of them, the students are able to take the lambs home and take care of them. I took one home this year. It was the best week of my life. I had a lamb living in my kitchen. Then Randy thought she got rid of her, but it was the wrong lamb. So, but me and Randy each have our pasteurization certification, and we basically run the dairy processing class. The dairy processing began with students making and selling the sheep milk soap. Several students have learned how to make the soap in middle school and all high school grades. The soap is sold at Salt Wheels Store in Kaz and Arneson Service and Repair in Sandusky, and it's also sold at the annual craft fair at school and on the online school website. Soap sales, they have given the FFA and Sheep Project enough money to purchase grain for the summer for the sheep each year. So in the right over here are students making the soap, and then there's Lora making soap on the left. Oh yeah, I made soap too. So last year we started making gelato at the end of the year, but this year is when it really started to kick off. We started to draw up plans, and we studied the big binder of state regulations. And the community members helped us build and get the processing room going. We have it down in our elementary kitchen, which used to be one big concession stand, but we put up a wall, split it in half, and then we use the back side of it as the processing room. And there's a big viewing window in it for the students to come in and watch. Students helped to clean the room, and we mudded the drywall in the transfer room. We set up the equipment and hung the SOPs on the walls. SOPs are standard operating procedures. Since it was a concession stand, the ceiling was kind of gross, so we had to take every single ceiling tile out and wash it in the sink. The first gelato flavor that we created last year was vanilla, and then this year we kept making vanilla, and we started to produce mint, maple nut, which we used the maple syrup from the trees that we tapped that the 8th graders tapped out in the school forest. And then we made strawberry and chocolate at the end of the year too. And then we just started selling the gelato this last spring at the Fine Arts Fair, and we have also sold it after lunch on Fridays. 2 years ago now, me and Randy went down to the UW Madison, and we took our pasteurization test. It was a long 2 days, so, Randy told me not to say that, sorry, never mind. But we sat in a big room, and we watched them go through slideshows. We went down to their own processing plant and saw how they did things. We learned all the parts and pieces of their processing plant.
Sorry about that.
So that's us after we got our certification back at school. And then here's pictures of inside the processing plant. The one here on the right is, me and Randy in there, putting the pasteurizer together and starting the processing. And then the rest is us cleaning and preparing the processing room to get up and running. Okay, back to Randy.
So just some other things that have happened out in sheep barn that have been kind of fun. Santa Claus came to visit, and you can't really see it, but that sheep's got her tongue sticking out. It's one of my favorite pictures. Also, we have been asked to go to the Butterfest. They have a craft fair in the park, so we've gone there and sold. And we're also went down to the school board. I don't know what it's called, the school board convention thing in Milwaukee. And we were chosen to present the sheep project down there. And when the Hill and Valley exploration tour started over towards Lime Ridge and Reedsburg area, we were in on that, and we worked with the Reedsburg Chamber of Commerce to help promote that tour, and we were on the tour. And there we are at Business After 5. And the tech ed teacher made us some sheep-shaped cookie cutters with a 3D printer, and so we took some sheep-shaped cookies, and Matt's testing them there. Also, we've had one of our fundraising things was a toy show, and so the middle on the top, that is Ellie Mae, who spent some time living in the school because she was rejected by her mother and kind of not the smartest sheep in the shack. But we had a diaper on her and a onesie, and she was quite the entertainment for a few weeks. At the toy show, she decided she was going to go away on that sign, and it was right by the self-contained milker that we were raising money for so that's what we used to milk the sheep with. On your left, students took the sheep out to the Sauk County Health Care Center, and they visited with the residents there. And then our house out here in Richland Center have toured our sheep barn, and they got to see the lambs. So that you might recognize Harriet Hendricks there. And in the top right corner, this to me was really exciting, and someday when I take vacation, I'm going to go out there. This is mother and son from Wyoming, and we had a bunch of ewe lambs that we needed to sell, so I had to advertise them. And they're from Wyoming, and they said, "Oh, we want to buy all your ewe lambs." So they came out here to Wisconsin to buy our ewe lambs, and they took them to Wyoming, and they started their own sheep dairy out there. So someday I want to go visit them. The sheep have been, so this was a fundraising event. It was a Kiss a Sheep event. So we had jars in the office, and kids could vote for which teacher was going to kiss the sheep, and then students could kiss the sheep for $2. So we made some money there. After the barn was built, we had a dedication, and on the top right was some of the was Sid Cook from Carr Valley, and Allison Dairyland visited us and talked to the kids, and that was fun. And Larry from the Sheep Dairy Cooperative, he's one that donated one of our first ewes. While UW Spooner was still going, they would let us use a ram. So every year I would take a bunch of kids up there, and we would go get the ram, and then the kids would get to see the facilities there. And the bottom one was in 2017, I think it was, our project won an award for the Standing Up for Rural Schools. So we went down to, I guess it was at the Dallas, and we presented that by Tony Evers wasn't able to come, so that's the secretary, or the next guy down. I can't remember what his name was. So that was quite an honor. We were excited about that. So this is more recent. I had help writing a grant, and we got from the Joan Woodman Orton, or whatever that long name is. Yeah. Foundation gave us $9,500 to add hay storage onto our sheep barns, which we're going to be finishing up this summer. We had the state officer come, and she got to go out and see the lambs. So one of the interesting things is that one year we had all those quadruplets, we had like 30-some lambs. And it was so cold out, we didn't know what to do with all of them. And there were actually a lot of kids that took them home. And at one time I had 5 in my house, and it was just nuts. And they were noisy. And so finally one night I said to my husband, I'm going to go start the heater in the greenhouse, and I'm going to put those stupid sheep in there. And so now that's just what we do, because as we're milking the sheep full time now, we just take the lambs away right away, and then they go up to the greenhouse, and they get milk replacer or milk if we aren't using milk yet. And so that's been really nice because it's a controlled environment, and our sheep have been doing, or lambs have been doing a lot better. Except for occasionally, like Ethel, which is the lamb that Addie had home with her. Don't be insulted, Addie, she was dumb. And she couldn't figure out how to drink out of the bucket and compete with the other ones. So that's why she was with Addie. And then Evelyn is our other special one. So these are the 2 lambs that are our spoke sheep for our Facebook page. So if you ever want to look us up, it's Emily and Spa on Facebook, and you can see all more than you probably ever want to know. We've also had 2 donkey basketball games to raise money, or this one, yeah, one donkey basketball game to raise money, and that's this one. And then the middle picture is Addie giving a tour. We had invited the Centenary Society to come and have gelato and play games, and only one teacher, 1 kid showed up, but Addie gave them a tour anyway, so they got to see the dairy processing. So thank you for allowing us to share our exciting project with you.